to paradox, because the guy you want next to you is the guy who's willing to look at himself and look at those difficult. I mean, this is kind of like I would say just like a spiritual principle in life. It's like the person I want next to me is the guy who's willing to admit his mistakes and do better next time.
Right, right.
And that's what therapy helps us accomplish. But the paradox of stigmas as they arise is like when we make up the thoughts in our own head before actually experiencing how beneficial these things can be, and then a system takes over that stigma and says, yeah, no, we're not touching this.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's way harder to work on yourself than it is to shove everything down and pretend like everything's fine. And you're way more dangerous doing that than you are coming and processing even small stuff, even stuff from your childhood. It doesn't have to be all about law enforcement or all about firefighting or paramedics or dispatchers or whatever. It can simply be, let's work on smaller stuff. It doesn't always have to be the deep, you know, uh, super traumatic events that you've been through. So,
Yeah. Therapy I've always found is about the minutia, the day to day. You know, we're going to get to those deeper rooted issues, and we'll find ourselves talking about your mom, but we'll get there in time. You know. Yeah, but that day to day. And I couldn't think of anybody more suited to talk about the day to day than a first responder who's out there seeing like the real world day to day. I think that gets kind of swept over sometimes of like, you know, you see a cop on the street and you don't stop and think about the things that they have to see day in and day out, or the fears they have to face, you know, being out interacting with unsafe characters in our day to day world out here, especially in a metropolitan area.
yeah. And I learned this near the end of my career. And I wish I would have never ignored it, but we also don't think about the families at home, like the first responder family at home.
Mm.
Not only are they dealing with the first responders, all their baggage they're bringing with them, um, but what they're going through while they're out there and the fears they make up in their own mind. So just as equally important for them to have therapy
Yeah.
and process some of these things than it is for, I almost said us, but I'm retired, so them.
Yeah, it's a good point. I have a few, right? Because I work with, we were talking before, I work with 12 steppers who are either actively, you know, in recovery for substance use, but the predominant population I work with is family
Families,
members.
yeah.
And